They called Marauder a junk hauler, but that was a lie to outsiders. Inside, everyone knew it had once been a long-range assault cruiser from the last Earth War, decommissioned, stripped, sold off to civilian hands. Only no one ever got around to removing the bones that mattered: the sealed weapons bay, the reactive armor, the ancient AI core buried deep inside the command deck that hadn't spoken in years. Joran remembered when it did speak. Before the crew got cocky. Before the new captain, the alien with 6 damn eyes and a voice like boiling oil, took over. They called him Xeric, and he didn't believe in humanity's ghosts. 3 weeks ago, the ship had been taken without a shot fired. Xeric's raiders stormed it during a mock drill, hit fast, paralyzed command with neuroshock nets, and marched half the human crew into holding cells. The other half bent the knee. Joran didn't kneel. He kept working in the guts of the ship where no one noticed. Like a roach. And roaches survive everything. "You, human, Hull Sector 7, leak report," a cold voice snapped behind him. Joran didn't turn, just grunted and tapped the panel. "Yeah, well, if you want a full shutdown, I can give you that. But it'll blow your engine mid-jump. Your call, Slick." The alien soldier, one of the hunched Varn-class grunts, hissed. They hated when humans didn't act afraid, hated even more when one spoke like they still owned the ship. The Varn raised a hand, claws flexing, but didn't swing. Orders, probably. Too valuable to kill. Joran spat beside its foot and muttered, "Mess with our ship, huh?" "Keep pushing." The Varn growled, turned, and slithered off. They never hit him, not yet. They needed his fingers, not his mouth. What they didn't realize was that Joran had more than fingers. He had access. Back when he worked under Commander Elric, Joran had coded back doors into half the ship's systems. No one noticed. No one cared. But now? Now those fragments of code hummed like sleeping wolves behind walls of outdated software, waiting. And today, the old AI twitched. It wasn't speech, not yet. Just a flicker in the system, a power surge in Sector 9, and a pressure pulse in the hallway that only someone like Joran would even spot. He stood frozen, heart kicking his ribs like it wanted out. "You still in there, old man?" he whispered into a dead comm link. Nothing answered. That night, he slipped back into Sector 4. Crew quarters emptied and sealed since the takeover. He popped the access hatch behind the old navigation chair, where the AI's core routing passed through. He ran his fingers along the conduit. "Wake up, you stubborn bastard," Joran muttered. "They've taken our ship." A spark lit the terminal. No voice, no command, but the lights dimmed in rhythm, like a heartbeat. They'd tried scrubbing the AI. Xeric's techs, smarter than most, had run virus sweeps, logic traps, purge commands. They never understood the Marauder wasn't just a machine. It had survived orbital firestorms. It had killed mutineers. It once held position while a black hole chewed on its flank. And now it was angry. The AI's core clicked. For the first time in 5 years, the emergency weapon logs unlocked, hidden deep under system diagnostics. Joran's eyes widened. Then a voice, rough as gravel and cold as deep space, cracked through the speaker. "Joran Maddox, confirming biometric match. Are we at war?" He exhaled. "Yeah, we're at war." The lights flared. From that moment, the Marauder stopped being a ship. It became a weapon again. And for the poor bastards walking its halls like they owned it, they'd just lit a fuse. The AI's voice crackled again, this time more fluid, more sure. "Joran Maddox, access restored. Combat protocol standing by. Damage report, 37% systems degraded. Command hierarchy, collapsed, awaiting directive." He sat back on his haunches, heart hammering like a failing engine. His fingers shook as they hovered over the manual keyboard. "Then let's start small," Joran muttered. "Diagnostics only. Nothing obvious. We poke the wound, not blow it open." The screen flared, and data surged across it. Familiar lines of code Joran hadn't seen in years. Hidden subsystems, cryostabilizers, drone bays, even partial reactor override. He typed, "Fast, query, enemy presence aboard? Priority, stealth confirmation only." The reply came within seconds. "Life forms on board, 172. Species, Varn, 112, Jiraka, 14, humans, 46. Status, 28 humans in confinement, 8 dead, 10 missing." Joran read that twice. 10 missing. They weren't in the brig, weren't accounted for. They'd either escaped, died somewhere the Varn hadn't logged, or were playing ghost just like him. Hope tightened in his chest. Not alone. Maybe. He exhaled through his teeth. "Let's keep feeding them rope." He backed out of the system, locked the panel, and reattached the rusted grating. As he left the room, he moved like a man with oil in his blood and vengeance in his lungs. The ship corridors stank of Varn musk and the sour metallic scent of disrespect. They strutted like they owned the place, rifles slung low, speaking in guttural clicks and snarls. Most of them ignored him. He wore a busted utility belt and the old Hull Tech uniform, faded gray and piss-stained. He looked like nothing. That was the point. He slipped past engineering and ducked into an old shaft between the coolant tubes. This was the shortcut to Deck 6, near the brig. He crouched in the shadows, listening. 2 guards were posted at the sealed brig doors. Varn enforcers, bigger, heavier, armored like exoskeletal bulls. No way through without alerting every alien on board. But Joran hadn't come to start a war, not yet. First, he needed allies, survivors, people who remembered what this ship used to be. He pulled a transmitter chip from his boot, old school, analog, untraceable. He jacked it into a maintenance terminal, rerouted the audio system, and patched a low-frequency message to the holding cells. He whispered, "If you're human, and you're hearing this, the ship remembers. You're not alone. If you want to take it back, be ready. 300 hours. Look for a fire signal." Then he killed the line and vanished down the shaft. He reached his bunk 3 hours before the false dawn, the light cycle the Varn installed to simulate time. Joran never followed it. He hadn't slept in sync with the ship since it fell. His rest came in jolts, 20 minutes here, an hour there. Dreams came fast and cruel, old battles, screams, Earth burning in the upper atmosphere while the fleet ran. He woke before the alarm. No time for fear now. Just movement. He made his way back to engineering, eyes low, avoiding all attention. When he reached the old sub-reactor console, he peeled back the panel and tapped into the core interface again. "AI, status report. Fire signal prep." "Affirmative. Plasma feed rerouted. Atmospheric vents sealed. Initiating thermal purge simulation in auxiliary shafts. ETA, Deus es y 58 local." It was an old trick from the Earth Glisa campaign. You didn't warn the enemy with gunfire. You suffocated them with panic. He smiled to himself. At 2:58 a.m., the first fire alert blared. Red lights flared in Corridor Delta 7, near the mess hall where most Varn grunts slept. The floor panels glowed orange as plasma residue seeped into the vents. Smoke, non-toxic, artificial, but real enough, curled out in thick coils. Varn voices screeched and barked in confusion. Alarm klaxons blared from 4 directions. Joran activated internal lockout codes on every third blast door. Confusion doubled as sections sealed at random. AI, he barked through clenched teeth. Vent sections Bravo and Delta. Blackout lights. Drop ambient temp to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Confirmed. Lights blinked out. Frost crept across the panels. The ship felt like a coffin. Joran slid into the lower cargo bay. Quiet, empty, forgotten. He pulled up the comm panel and whispered, "To all humans, this is your signal. If you've got fists, rocks, or rage, now's the time. Meet at Cryo Hangar C." He waited. At first, nothing. Then feet shuffling, a small group. A woman in torn coveralls, a man missing 2 fingers, a pair of engineers from waste management, even an old Marine with a bent spine and a dead look in his eyes. 12. 12 humans crawled out of hiding. Scarred, limping, dirty, but alive. One of them, a younger man with blood on his shirt, stared at Joran like he was a ghost. "You're Joran Maddox. You built the weapon relays." Joran just nodded. "You still remember how to pull a trigger?" The man smiled bitterly. "Don't need a trigger. I just want to kill one." Joran looked around. Some had tools, a wrench, a sharpened pipe, a rusted combat knife. It would do. They moved through the maintenance tunnels, ducking sensors and patrol routes. The AI fed real-time updates through Joran's chip, marked enemy positions, possible escape routes, backup airlocks. It felt like the ship itself was breathing again. In the old drone hangar, they found the first surprise: 4 human corpses, piled like trash. Executed. Varn kill signatures scorched into their chests. Joran stood over them and said nothing. But one of the survivors, a woman with cropped silver hair, whispered, "We bury them in flame." He nodded. "AI, lock this room. Flood it with oxygen. Then give me ignition on command." Confirmed. They made it to the cryo bay by 0330. Inside, hidden beneath the floor panels, were the real weapons. Old caches from the Earth War. Disassembled, tagged as scrap for decades. But nothing was ever truly thrown out. Not on a ship like the Marauder. Joran cracked open the crate. Inside, pulse rifles, kinetic disruptors, a full satchel of thermal charges. He handed them out like candy. "First shot starts the war," he said. "But the AI's got our back. Deck-by-deck lockdowns. Environmental control. Once we kick them in the teeth, the ship will handle the choke." A low murmur of agreement moved through the crowd. Joran slung a rifle over his shoulder and looked each one in the eye. "We lost this ship without firing a shot. That was our mistake. Let's not make the same one twice." They struck fast. At 0400, the drone bay exploded, ignited by the oxygen surge, turned into a furnace of roaring flame. Varn troops scrambled, screaming through comms, disoriented by the blackout corridors and flickering fire systems. Joran led the assault on engineering, key to power, life support, and comms. 2 Varn guards dropped in seconds, pulse rounds through the head. The third reached for the alarm panel. Too slow. Joran shot its claw off. Then the throat. The humans behind him surged forward, rage lighting their faces. The old Marine tore a Varn down with his bare hands, fists soaked in violet blood. They secured engineering in 6 minutes. The ship shifted, literally. Vibration in the walls, lights flared. Gravity surged as the AI rerouted systems back to human control. "Control transfer complete," the AI declared, initiating purge protocol. In sections where the Varn were concentrated, the ship decompressed airlocks. In others, it flooded the vents with anti-personnel gas, designed long ago for boarding parties. The shrieks that followed were inhuman. Joran didn't flinch. He simply moved to the next hallway, rifle raised, ready to finish what the ship started. They found Zarek near the bridge, screaming into a comm panel that no longer responded, trapped behind a flickering shield barrier. Eyes wild, 6 arms splayed in fury. "You think this is victory?" he hissed through bloody teeth. "You'll die with this ship." Joran raised his rifle. "No," he said. "We live in it. You die with it." He fired. By sunrise cycle, the ship was theirs again. Out of 112 Varn invaders, only 7 survived, and only because the AI opened the rear airlock and launched their bodies into space. A message. The bridge was reclaimed, systems restored. Every human aboard stood in silence while the AI pulsed one last message across the internal comms. Marauder. Status. Sovereign. Intruders removed. Command restored to humanity. Message to all who dare enter again. Mess with humanity's ship? Don't say you weren't warned. The silence after battle was never peaceful. It was haunted. The corridors of the Marauder no longer echoed with alien footsteps or foreign tongues. Now it was just humans, limping, wounded, blood-soaked and hollow-eyed, moving through their own ship like strangers inside a corpse. Joran stood at the bridge viewport, watching the stars. They weren't moving. No FTL jump, no signal beacon. They were dark, drifting in an empty sector. Quiet. Too quiet. Behind him, the AI crackled with life. "Joran Maddox. Enemy presence. Eliminated. Hull integrity, 71%. Reactor output stable, awaiting further instruction." He rubbed his face with both hands, exhausted. The blood on his knuckles wasn't dry yet. "Run deep scan. Long range. Anything in our wake?" Scanning. 1 moment. Proximity alert. Ship detected. Unidentified class. Distance, 4.2 astronomical units. Trajectory, intercept. ETA, 11 hours. He turned. "Are they Varn?" Negative. No known species match. Ship construction, hybrid alloy, fusion engines. Human design elements present. Human? He narrowed his eyes. Partial. Tech divergence suggests colony integration. Origin unclear. Weapon systems active. Shields raised. That was all he needed to hear. "Bring up the tactical," Joran ordered. The AI projected a schematic across the main console. The enemy ship was smaller than the Marauder, sleeker, but its energy signature pulsed hot. Armed and ready. Someone was coming, and they didn't bring flowers. By the 3rd hour, tension thickened like oil. The survivors gathered in the command lounge, 34 now, counting 2 wounded who wouldn't walk again. The woman with silver hair, her name was Dana, leaned forward, knuckles white on the table. "We just got this ship back. We're not giving it up again." "Don't be stupid," growled the ex-Marine, Cole. "You think we can go round 2 without rest, without food, without half our weapons?" "We hold it," Dana said, eyes sharp, "even if we have to throw their bodies out piece by piece again." "Enough," Joran said quietly. The room fell silent. He stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, mind already racing 2 steps ahead. "This isn't about holding the ship. It's about what's coming. Whoever they are, they got the message. This is a response." Dana raised an eyebrow. "Then we shoot them down." He shook his head. "Number not yet. We don't know what they want." "They're coming armed." "Exactly. Which means they're not stupid. If they wanted to nuke us, we'd already be gone. This is different. It's a probe, a test." Cole snorted. Let me guess. You want to talk? No, Joran said flatly. I want to lie. An hour later, the Marauder was staged for first contact. The bridge lights were lowered. Weapon systems remained offline, visibly. But under the surface, the AI had all turrets armed and every missile bay primed. Stealth fields masked the heat signatures. They'd appear disabled, vulnerable, drifting. The enemy ship entered visual range, a jagged, angular design, scavenged hull plating, patched armor, mismatched thrusters. Not Varn, not pure human either. Something in between. Pirates, colonials, rogue operators? The AI broke the silence. Incoming hail request. Joran nodded. Patch it through. The screen flickered. A face appeared. Human-shaped, but not Earth-standard. Pale skin with synthetic veins. Irises glowing faint blue. Augmented, male, bald. A cybernetic spine visible at his throat. This is Commander Thale of the Vigilant Reaper. Identify yourself. Joran stared him down. You first. A smirk tugged the edge of Thale's mouth. I already did. Joran crossed his arms. You're approaching a sovereign vessel. State your purpose. Thale leaned back, amused. Funny choice of words. Sovereign. That rust bucket belonged to the Galactic Salvage Authority 6 months ago. Then the Varn seized it. Now, you. Joran said nothing. Thale continued. We intercepted your purge signal. Whole quadrant lit up. Whatever you did, it made waves. That kind of noise, it attracts attention and opportunity. What kind of opportunity? Joran asked carefully. Thale's smile widened, but it was sharp. The kind that doesn't involve selling you out. Yet. There it was. The game. Let me guess, Joran said. You want to help us? For a price. I want the ship, Thale replied, blunt as a knife. The room went cold. Joran didn't move. Try and take it. Oh, I don't mean now. I mean later. You're bleeding. You've got ghosts in your engines. I'm offering you an out. We board peacefully, assist with repairs, and when it's time, we negotiate transfer. Clean, quiet, no more blood. You talk like a bureaucrat, but you look like a killer, Joran said. Which is it? Thale grinned. Same as you, Maddox. The line cut. The War Council reconvened. He knows your name, Dana whispered. Means they tapped the ship's memory banks, Joran muttered. Maybe intercepted comms. AI, confirm any breach? Negative. No external system compromise. Memory logs accessed. Internal only. So how does he know me? Cole leaned forward. You ever sell out? Turn merc? No, Joran snapped. Then someone did it for you. That chilled the room further. By hour 7, the Vigilant Reaper launched a single shuttle toward the Marauder. Unarmed. Slow approach. Obvious. Joran didn't stop it. He watched the boarding tube extend, hiss, and lock into place. He stood just beyond the seal with 5 armed survivors behind him. The airlock opened. Thale stepped out alone. No weapon, wearing black leather with steel threads sewn along the arms. His spine clicked softly with every step. He looked around and whistled. Still smells like dead Varn. Joran raised his rifle. One wrong twitch and your spine decorates my console. Thale chuckled. Relax, I came for a conversation, not a firefight. He walked the corridor like it was already his, like he was seeing his future. Truth is, I admire you, Maddox. You took back a stolen warship with a dozen broken people and an AI from the Stone Age. That takes grit, balls, fury, the kind of fire we like. We? My crew, my network. I run with the Ash Pact. Maybe you've heard of us." Joran had. The Ash Pact was a mercenary syndicate based out of the Cerberus Rift, mostly ex-military, ex-colonial. Some called them terrorists, others called them freedom fighters. Everyone called them dangerous. "You work with slavers," Dana snapped. Thale turned, smile fading. "We sell slavers. Difference." Joran raised a hand. "Enough. Why are you here, really?" Thale's face darkened. "Because the Varn will come back, and not with a raiding party next time, with a fleet. This ship humiliated them. That's not something they forgive." "We'll be ready," Joran said coldly. "No," Thale replied. "You won't. Not alone. But with us? Maybe." "You want us to join you?" "I want the Marauder, one way or another. But if you join us, you get to keep breathing while we fly her." Joran stepped forward, rifle down but voice razor sharp. "You don't get it, do you? This ship doesn't belong to you, or the Varn, or the Pact. It remembers what it was built for, and it remembers who it was built by." Thale raised an eyebrow. "And what's that mean?" A voice, deep and ancient, filled the hallway. "This vessel belongs to humanity. Those not aligned will be neutralized." The AI had spoken. Loudly. Thale flinched, then laughed. "You reactivated the war core. You crazy bastard! This ship is alive." Joran stepped in close, his voice low. "You've got 10 minutes to get off my deck. After that, this ship decides if your shuttle ever leaves." Thale stared at him. Not amused, not smiling, calculating. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. "Probably," Joran replied. "But I'll regret it as the man who still owns his ship. You? You'll be floating home in a cargo box." Thale turned, walked back to the airlock without another word. 10 minutes later, the shuttle undocked. Joran watched it vanish into the dark, trailing quiet hate behind it like a comet. Incoming message, encrypted sender, unknown, relayed through 14 nodes. Content: "You've made enemies, Maddox. That ship is worth more than you, more than Earth. Sleep with your eyes open." He deleted the message. But he didn't sleep that night. Instead, he stood on the bridge alone, watching the stars. He whispered to the ship, "You ready for what comes next?" The AI responded without hesitation. Always. The mess hall felt like a morgue. Steel tables lined with bruised and bandaged survivors, most too tired to speak. Dana sat at one corner, eating what passed for protein paste from a rusted ration tin. Cole stood against the wall, arms crossed, scanning every movement like he expected betrayal to walk in at any moment. Joran entered with a datapad and silence. Everyone stopped what they were doing. He set the pad down and let the image speak for itself. A satellite scan, infrared, dull blue and green, a Varn staging outpost on the edge of Sector 5-9, 10 light-years away, recently built, half complete, heavily active. "That's where the next strike comes from," Joran said. Dana leaned forward. "How sure are we?" The Marauder's AI intercepted encrypted signals during the skirmish. Varn tactical codes. This outpost's ID was embedded in a transmission marked retaliation wave. They're building up forces, fuel depots, living pods, weapons caches. Cole cracked his knuckles. "Then we hit it first." Joran nodded slowly. "Exactly. If we let them move first, we'll be outnumbered. But if we strike fast, hard, we knock their legs out before they can stand." Someone in the back muttered, "We've got 34 fighters, half of them limping." "You're talking about raiding a Varn war nest?" Joran met their gaze. "I'm talking about reminding the Varn, and everyone else, that humanity doesn't wait for permission to survive." He tapped the datapad. Another schematic appeared. The old Marauder had drone bays, automated assault pods once meant for planetary sieges. Most had been scrapped, but 4 still worked. Hidden. Forgotten. "You'll have support," he said. "AI-guided drone strikes. EMP pulses from orbit. We blind them first. Cut power. Then we go in, hit the command hub, wipe their servers, and torch the supplies." Dana was already on her feet. "You need someone to lead the ground team." "I was hoping you'd say that," Joran said. "Cole, you're with her. You know how the Varn think." "Unfortunately," Cole muttered. Joran turned to the rest of them. "I need 6 more. Volunteers only. We don't have a second wave." The silence was broken by a mechanic named Rad, missing 2 fingers and a chunk of his left ear. "I didn't crawl through shit and blood to play janitor. I'm in." Others followed. Quiet nods. Broken smiles. They weren't soldiers, not anymore. But they had nothing left to lose. And that made them perfect. The Marauder moved through deep space like a ghost, silent, cloaked. The AI maintained an electromagnetic silence. No signal, no heat bloom. Even the ship's pulse reactors were operating in blackout mode, buried behind thermal baffles and shielded coils. From the outside, it was just another derelict drifting near a dark star. Inside, it was a loaded weapon. Joran stood on the bridge, flanked by the AI's primary interface, a hologram now displaying a human male outline, faceless but watchful. "Distance to Varn, staging outpost?" Joran asked. 3 million kilometers. Weapons in range in 4 minutes. He opened a channel to the strike team, already suited and strapped into the dropship bay. "Final check. Team leads?" Dana's voice came through, sharp and steady. "Ready." Cole followed. "Locked and loaded," he nodded. "Then light the match." The first strike wasn't loud. It was surgical. The AI deployed a long-range EMP spike that detonated 40 kilometers above the Varn station. Power surged, overloaded, collapsed. Lights died. Shields failed. Comms blacked out. 5 seconds later, the Marauder fired 2 precision rail rounds at the command antenna, reduced to flaming debris in the blink of an eye. On the ground, the Varn staggered in darkness, scrambling for backup systems that were no longer there. Then the sky opened up. Dana's team dropped like thunder. The dropship punched through the atmosphere and deployed countermeasures, smoke screens, flare bursts, and seismic jammers. The Varn wouldn't see them until they were on top of them. Inside the ship, Joran watched it all unfold from the bridge, fingers twitching with adrenaline. "Ground team has landed," the AI confirmed. "No resistance within first 100 meters. Power grid is offline. Deploying drone support." The HUD flared with new pings. 4 stealth drones descended in silent formation, targeting the weapon caches, fuel reserves, and barracks. Down below, chaos reigned. Dana moved like a blade. Smooth. Precise. She led the team through the main corridor, pulse rifle tight against her shoulder. The Varn had rallied faster than expected. Their biosignatures weren't just Varn anymore. There were hybrids, spliced mercs, hacked-up tech-augmented freaks. They weren't soldiers. They were monsters. But Dana didn't care. She dropped 2 with headshots. Cole fired a blast round into a command tunnel, caving in half the wall. Rad tossed a thermal spike into the fuel station. The explosion rocked the entire outpost. Blood sprayed the walls. Screams echoed. Fire crawled up the barracks. Dana saw a Varn soldier crawling for a mounted turret. She didn't hesitate. 1 shot to the spine. The alien twitched and died, sparks bursting from its cyber-rigged armor. "Command center 60 meters east," she shouted. They pushed forward, carving a bloody path. Behind them, the drones detonated. One by one, the outpost's major systems went up in flames. On the bridge, the AI flickered. Incoming transmissions. Multiple vessels approaching. Joran snapped to attention. Identity? Ash Pact vessels, 4 signatures. Estimated arrival in 20 minutes. His stomach twisted. They'd followed the Marauder. Or maybe they'd followed the signal from the Varn's collapse. Either way, they were coming. He opened a channel to Dana. Extraction in 15. Ash Pact is en route. Her voice came back without fear. We'll be ready. The team reached the command hub. It was locked. A Varn officer had sealed himself inside, barricading the door with magnetic clamps and bulkhead welds. They could hear his screeching voice through the reinforced steel, ordering reinforcements that would never arrive. Cole slammed his shoulder into the door. Nothing. Dana glanced at the drone hovering nearby. Aye, she said, breath ragged. Override the hub seal. Route command through drone interface. Override accepted. Command hub access in 10 seconds. The locks clicked. The door slid open. The Varn officer screamed. It lasted 3 seconds. Cole walked out, wiping blood from his armor. Dana raised her comm. Joran, we've got the core. Upload all data, then burn it. Confirmed, the AI replied, extracting full system logs, Varn fleet routes, supply lines, and command hierarchies. Joran felt it in his bones. They were punching holes in an empire. The team exfiltrated under fire. A surviving Varn pack had regrouped at the north exit. 6 of them. Tall, armored, bleeding rage. Dana led the push. Rad took a shot to the shoulder but kept moving. Cole slammed one Varn to the ground and crushed its windpipe with a boot. By the time the dropship returned, the outpost was burning. They lifted off with fire trailing behind them. Joran stood on the flight deck when they landed. Dana stepped out, helmet off, soaked in sweat and someone else's blood. She didn't speak. She just handed him the core drive. Joran stared at it, then at her. You good? She gave a single nod. Better than them. 2 hours later, the Marauder was gone. The AI detonated the outpost's fusion core remotely. The blast erased everything. Logs, corpses, shame, a message written in ash. But the Ash Pact fleet was near. Too close. Joran watched their ships appear on long-range scan, 4 black silhouettes. He stood at the helm. Cole walked up beside him. You think they'll talk this time? No. Good, Cole said. I'm tired of talking. The Marauder raised shields, charged weapons. Joran gave the order. Let them see what happens when you threaten something human. And the galaxy watched, again, as fire answered arrogance. The bridge smelled like ozone and old blood. Joran Maddox stood in the center, jaw locked, eyes scanning the approaching ships on the holographic star map. They moved in a tight formation, deliberate, predatory. The Ash Pact wasn't coming to negotiate. They were coming to take. Enemy vessels at 600,000 kilometers, the AI reported calmly. Weapons powered, no hails issued. Cole crossed his arms, standing behind the weapons console. Guess that's our answer. Dana leaned over the tactical screen. 4 ships, 2 destroyer class, 1 light carrier, 1 frigate with flanking thrusters. That carrier's housing drones, probably shield breakers. They're here to strip us and float the bones, Joran muttered. Same playbook they use on fringe colonies. Cole cracked his knuckles. Then we break their fucking playbook. Joran took a breath, slow and deep. AI, options? Minimal chance of surviving a direct confrontation. 4-to-1 odds. They outgun and outclass us. Joran didn't blink. Then we stop playing fair. He turned to the crew gathered around the edges of the bridge. Every survivor, every fighter, mechanic, medic, and tech who stood with him when no one else would. We don't win this by standing still. We hit fast, we hit dirty, and we hit where it hurts. This isn't a battle. It's a message. Again, no one questioned him. Not anymore. The Marauder moved like a predator cloaked in silence. Joran ordered all active signatures cut. Main drive dimmed, external lights doused, even the hull cooled using internal coolant to mimic the dead drift of space debris. The Ash Pact wouldn't see them until it was too late. AI, Joran ordered. Prep countermeasures. Cloak 2 drones and send them 60 degrees starboard with trailing beacon signatures. Make them look like we're running. Confirmed. Deploying decoy drones. Signature set to mimic Marauder heat and pulse emissions. Launching now. On the enemy scanners, it would look like the Marauder was fleeing. Exactly what they'd expect a scared, outnumbered crew to do. The trick worked. Thale's voice came through a sudden hail. Sharp, cold, laced with mockery. Maddox, your ship's running. Your bluff is over. Stand down, and we'll make this painless. Joran cut the channel with one hand and didn't say a word. Instead, he said to the AI, "Target the frigate. Their eyes and ears. EMP burst. Then we gut them. Lock acquired. Firing in 10 seconds." In the endless dark, the Marauder flared to life. 2 high-velocity EMP charges launched from hidden bays, screaming across space like blue comets. The enemy frigate's shields absorbed the first. Barely. The second charge tore through the weakened field and ruptured the main comm array. Sparks exploded. A chunk of the hull spun off, bleeding atmosphere and flame. Cole whooped. "One eye blind, let's keep cutting." Joran raised his voice. "Weapons free. Target engines on the carrier. Let's take away their fangs." The Marauder unleashed hell. Twin railguns roared, slamming metal slugs into the carrier's aft thrusters. The impacts were precise, brutal, and timed with the drone decoys still baiting the enemy formation. The Ash Pact ships hesitated just long enough for the next move. Dana coordinated the drone swarm. Dozens of reprogrammed micro-drones, each carrying a micro-EMP spike. They swarmed from underneath the Marauder's hull and curved like angry hornets toward the destroyers. The first destroyer responded with automated flak, swatting half the drones down. The other half struck. One hit the bridge, another punched into the belly. Short circuits lit the ship's sides like a burning fuse. "Enemy destroyer down to 60% power," the AI confirmed. "Second destroyer adjusting vector." Joran nodded. "Let him. Spin us into a dive. We fake a reactor failure. AI, prep forward launchers. Ready." The Marauder twitched like a dying bird. Hull plates opened and closed erratically. Lights flickered. Artificial gravity fluctuated. Everything about it screamed critical failure. The Ash Pact moved in. They smelled victory, but the Marauder was playing possum. Joran watched the readouts. Closer. Closer. The second destroyer approached at attack range, preparing to board or finish the kill shot. Now. Twin forward launchers spat 2 thermite charges. Experimental weapons Joran had rediscovered deep in the ship's forgotten vault. Designed for siege warfare. Designed to eat through shields like acid. They hit center mass. The destroyer cracked open like an egg. Inside its spine, the reactor failed. A second later, it detonated. The shockwave slammed through the Marauder, rattling consoles and knocking 3 crew members off their feet. Dana grunted as sparks rained from a burst conduit above her. "Damage report!" Joran snapped. "Forward shields holding, hull breach on secondary port deck. Contained, no casualties, target destroyed." Cole laughed like a lunatic. "That's 2 down, 2 to go." But the remaining Ash Pact destroyer didn't flinch. It charged. The carrier pulled back, damaged but still functional. It began launching fighters, dozens of sleek, fast, claw-shaped crafts built for rapid strikes. Dana's voice came through, urgent. "Those fighters will tear us to pieces if we don't thin them out." Joran barked. "Deploy scrap mines." AI, calculate an intercept pattern. Deploying magnetic scrap field, releasing debris cloud with charged polarity, estimating 65% effectiveness. The Marauder launched a payload of jagged hull fragments, old warheads with the detonators stripped, and magnetic nodes wrapped in heat tape, everything that could float and look like real danger. The fighters dove straight into it. Half of them exploded on contact. The rest scattered, forcing the carrier to hold back deployment and regroup. That gave the Marauder a chance to pivot toward the destroyer. This one didn't hesitate. The enemy destroyer fired twin ion lances. Both slammed into the Marauder's side, jolting the ship hard enough to flicker the gravity again. 2 systems went red. Environmental controls flickered. Minor fires broke out on Deck 9. Cole cursed. "We can't take another direct hit." Joran gritted his teeth. "Then we don't." He raced to the override console. "AI, execute maneuver Banshee 3. Confirming, warning. This maneuver carries 42% risk of internal systems collapse." "Confirm," Joran hissed. The Marauder spun sideways, hard. Gravity lurched. The ship rolled vertically, presenting its thinnest profile to the incoming fire. At the same time, it launched a full payload of heat-seeking missiles from its undercarriage. Missiles hidden since before the Varn ever stepped aboard. The destroyer's shields absorbed the first 6. The next 4 got through. Explosions tore through the ship's starboard flank. Its stabilizers buckled. Then the Marauder closed the gap, fast and ugly. Cole grabbed the helm. "You want to ram 'em?" Joran's voice was cold steel. "We hit their bridge with boarding torpedoes. We take command." Dana's voice chimed in, bitter and ready. "Tell me when to breach." The torpedoes fired. 2 pods, both carrying breaching teams. Dana and 7 others. They slammed into the enemy hull with magnetic anchors and began cutting. The Pact crew responded, but they weren't ready for close-quarters combat. They were mercenaries, not soldiers. Dana's blade slid into the first one's neck before his weapon even cleared its holster. Rad blew through a bulkhead and dropped a grenade inside the reactor access hallway. The lights died. Screams followed. On the Marauder, Joran watched the board as the enemy destroyer's status turned yellow, then red, then black. "Bridge secured," Dana's voice came over the comm, panting and fierce. "Enemy captain's dead. Their nav systems are fried. We own this fucking ship." A cheer erupted on the Marauder. The last Pact ship, the damaged carrier, began retreating. Joran opened a channel, one way. His voice was calm, surgical. "To the Ash Pact. This is Joran Maddox of the Marauder. You've failed. Twice. And I'm not feeling generous enough to offer a third." He paused. Let silence weigh the words. "You want what's ours? Bring more ships. Bring a fleet. Bring a goddamn empire. We'll bury them too." He cut the line. The carrier jumped to FTL, running for the outer systems. The stars around the Marauder dimmed again. But this time, the silence wasn't haunted. It was earned. Joran sat alone in the captain's quarters for the first time in days. A bottle of Old Earth whiskey sat on the table, a cracked photo beside it, of his brother, lost in the last war, another ghost avenged. The AI flickered on the console. "Casualties, 3. System damage, manageable. Status, combat victory. Message to intercept from regional relay beacon." "From who?" "Unknown sender. Tagged as Human Colony Dawn's Reach." Joran leaned forward. "Play it." A woman's voice, shaky but proud, filled the room. "To whoever took back the Marauder, we saw what you did. The Varn outpost, the Ash Pact fleet. We're not fighters, but we're human, and we're not kneeling anymore. If you're out there, you're not alone." Joran sat back. For the first time in years, he let himself smile. Joran stared out the viewport, watching Dawn's Reach spin slowly across the stars. The Human Colony's message still rang in his ears, even though it had ended an hour ago. The voice had been raw, unpolished, trembling with fear and pride. "We're not kneeling anymore." That part stuck with him the most. It wasn't just a phrase, it was a shift. The Marauder had done more than destroy Varn and Ash Pact forces. It had sparked belief. Dangerous, reckless, beautiful belief. And now that belief needed protection. Behind him, the bridge was alive with quiet motion. Engineers patched scorched walls. Medics moved between wounded crew who refused to lie down. Dana stood over a console, arms crossed, eyes scanning comm relays. She turned without smiling. 4 more colonies just pinged us. Eastern Reach, Deepwell Station, and 2 old Earthliners turned civilian freighters, all asking the same thing. Joran nodded. Whether we're real, or whether we're suicidal. He didn't answer right away, because truthfully, both were fair questions. Cole entered next, limping slightly from a cracked rib. His shirt was stained with dried blood that probably wasn't his. He dropped into the chair across from Joran and sighed. "I just heard. The Reaper's fleet had a 5th ship, a command cruiser. It didn't show during the fight. But it's still tracking us. Intermittent signals just outside scan range." Joran raised an eyebrow. "Waiting for us to let our guard down? Or waiting for reinforcements to catch up?" Dana added, "You made a speech. Called out an empire. You didn't just kill their dogs. You poked the master in the eye." "Good," Joran muttered. "I want him to see." Cole leaned in, his voice low. "We need to move. We've been stationary too long. That cruiser's waiting for us to dock, to refuel, to bleed just enough. And when we do?" "They'll descend with fire," Dana finished. Joran stood, walking to the central interface. "Then we move first, again." The AI's map lit up, showing 4 systems nearby with fuel or resource caches, either forgotten stations or disputed colonies. Only one of them had any kind of shield capacity. The rest? Soft targets. But one caught Joran's eye. A mining colony called Veskar 3, once human, now under a Varn subcontract, operated by labor droids and a human cooperation council, in other words, house slaves in clean uniforms. He tapped the display. "We take this." Dana frowned. "It's a mine. What do we need? Rocks?" Joran looked at her. "Number, we need what's under them." Cole caught on first. "Fuel core. Old fusion rotors. If they're running a Varn-grade strip operation, that site has 2nd-gen isotopes under lock." "Exactly," Joran said. "Enough to fuel Marauder for a month, boost our shields, and, if we reroute enough, prep for something bigger." "Like what?" Dana asked. Joran stared at the screen. "Like holding territory. Not just running, not just hitting and vanishing. We plant a flag." That word, flag, made her go quiet. The crew had been surviving, escaping, striking. But claiming? That was dangerous. That was real war. Veskar 3 sat in the shadow of a red gas giant, ringed with debris and half-finished satellites. The mine operation was planetary side, with 2 landing zones, a central processing plant, and a lightly defended command bunker. No warships, 1 patrol craft, Varn registered but automated. Joran and the crew watched from orbit, hidden in the atmosphere of a nearby moon, cloaked and silent. "Life signs?" he asked. "Estimate, 64 humans, 18 Varn enforcers, 41 droids, passive security net operational. Any heavy weapons?" "Negative, surface-to-air defense is minimal, no fleet support detected." Perfect. They'd hit hard, fast, a single strike operation. But this wasn't just a raid. This time they weren't leaving after the smoke. The plan was simple. Disable comms. The Varn couldn't call for help. Cut power to the drones. That meant knocking out the fusion relay buried beneath the refinery. Storm the bunker. Capture or kill the Varn command and broadcast control. It would take 10 humans. That's all. The rest would stay on the Marauder. Keep watch for the 5th Pact ship lurking in the void. Joran led the strike team himself this time. "I need to see the dirt," he'd said. "I need to look these people in the eye." Dana wanted to argue. She didn't. She knew the look in his face, the one he wore the day they retook the Marauder. The drop went smooth. No alarms, no resistance. They landed behind a shipping bay, moved between stacked cargo containers filled with plasma cutters and metal slabs. The mining operation had been busy, just not expecting war. Joran signaled the first strike. Rad planted an EMP mine beneath the comm tower. It blew without a sound, just a flicker of light and a sudden power sag across the base. Lights dimmed. Drones froze mid-stride. The refinery stopped humming. Then the screams started. Varn enforcers emerged from the bunker, snarling and confused. One got a shot off before Rad dropped it with a round to the throat. The others weren't as lucky. Pulse fire laced the air. One human went down, a mechanic named Laren, barely out of his 20s. They carried him forward, because leaving bodies behind wasn't the kind of message Joran believed in. Inside the bunker, the human council waited, and cowered. They weren't leaders, just collaborators. 5 of them. Clean clothes, nervous hands, all of them wearing badges with the Varn crest. One stood, trembling. We were told this station was neutral. We provide quotas, maintain peace, keep the order." Joran shot the badge off his chest. "Peace?" he spat. "You let your people be worked to death while you sat in filtered air and drank imported wine." "We were trying to survive," another cried. "So are we," Joran said. "But we didn't sell our spine to do it." He turned to the team. "Put them in holding, all of them. Let the miners decide what they're worth." 30 minutes later, the Marauder descended through the clouds and landed at the far edge of the base. When the miners saw the hull, they didn't cheer. They didn't run. They stared. It wasn't just awe, it was disbelief. A legend, broken, hated, ghosted, now parked outside their prison, a warship with teeth, a warship that had won. Joran stood on a cargo crate with a loudspeaker and told them everything. What happened to the Marauder, the Varn takeover, the Ash Pact betrayal, the retaking, the fire. He ended with one line. "You're free. But that comes with a price. Now you have to act like it." Some wept, some cheered. One man picked up a rusted mining tool, looked at the Varn corpse nearby, and nodded. "Where do you want the rest of the bodies stacked?" They took Vesker 3 in under 3 hours. No shots fired after the first 20 minutes. No survivors on the Varn side. The mine was theirs. More than that, it was the first human-held territory in Varn-controlled space in nearly a decade, and Joran named it publicly, Sovereign One. The next message from the Marauder didn't beg for support. It declared rule. "This is Commander Joran Maddox of the Marauder. Vesker 3 is no longer a slave station. It's human soil. Anyone who disagrees can bring their fleet, but you'd better bring fire, because we've got plenty left to give." Back on the bridge, the crew was quiet. Dana finally spoke. "You just drew a line in the sand, Joran." He nodded. "Yeah, and now we find out who's willing to step across it." 3 days. That's how long they had before the sky burned. 3 days of rebuilding, burying bodies, and trying to convince terrified people that this wasn't just another false hope doomed to collapse. Joran stood on a scaffold overlooking Sovereign One's refitted command post, its steel hull painted with the white sigil of a clenched fist wrapped in flame. Below, human workers milled like ants, repairing fusion lines, rewiring drone bays, hauling out the dead rot left by Varn overseers. Dana approached from behind. She didn't speak right away. "They're scared," she finally said. "I know." Some think we're going to run, that this was just another raid with a speech. Joran watched the horizon. Then we stay, and we make sure the next thing that comes over those hills sees a wall of guns, not a crowd of dreamers waiting to die. She paused. And if they bring 10 ships instead of 4? Then we show them what a funeral looks like at light speed. The AI's voice came through his earpiece later that night, calm but heavy. Long-range sensors detect inbound mass. Varn registry confirmed. 7 ships. Estimated time to contact, 19 hours. Joran sat up in his bunk. Show me. A projection bloomed in the dark. A slow-moving fleet, built for occupation, not hit and run. 2 heavy cruisers, 3 supply frigates, 1 blockade carrier, and a planetary assault transport. They weren't just coming to punish. They were coming to erase. He opened a private channel to Dana and Cole. Meeting. Now war table. Back in the command center, the 3 of them stared at the projection in silence. Cole cracked first. We can't stop that head on. We don't, Joran said. We hit around it. Dana frowned. Meaning? We let them land, he replied. Let them bring their arrogance down on the surface, start marching like they've already won. Then we carve their support lines from the sky, trap their boots in the mud, and turn Sovereign into their coffin. Dana said nothing, but her eyes burned. Cole leaned forward. That's suicide. No, Joran said. It's sacrifice. We hold them down here just long enough for the Marauder to cripple their orbitals. Then we cut off their retreat and starve them out. Dana ran a hand through her hair. We have maybe 60 guns, some stolen Varn rifles, a handful of pulse pistols, and 4 drones half full on charge. Then we get creative, Joran replied. I pull schematics on refinery tunnels. Show me every buried entrance under the colony walls. Displaying 11 maintenance access points, all structurally intact. Joran grinned. That's how we bleed them. The preparation was brutal. Sovereign One turned from a liberated mining pit into a war trap. Joran ordered makeshift kill zones mapped out through the refinery fields. Explosive charges hidden in slag piles. Rusted drill arms converted into piercing impalers. Even the water lines were rigged to burst with scalding vapor. The tunnels beneath the command post were laced with choke points and fallback nests, perfect for bottlenecks and fire bombs. Cole took charge of tunnel defense personally, drilling every able-bodied settler like a madman. Learn to kill dirty, he barked. Clean fighting's for soldiers. We're survivors. That means eye gouges, pipe swings, throat shots. If they see you as vermin, then bite like one. Dana oversaw weapon calibration. She reprogrammed old Varn drones with new kill switch codes, linked them to the AI, and uploaded custom targeting parameters. Kill only non-human heat SIGs. Move when screamed at. It wasn't elegant, but it was efficient. By the 15th hour, the sky over Sovereign One began to change. It started as a speck, then a streak, then 7 distinct outlines casting long shadows over the mine crater. Joran stood on the outer wall as the first of the Varn cruisers entered orbit. It loomed like a continent, casting the sun aside, announcing its arrival with a deep, gut-churning frequency that echoed across the atmosphere. Planetary transmission received, the AI said. Translation complete. The voice came through the speakers, in that guttural, snarling tongue Joran had learned to loathe. This outpost is under unlawful occupation by insurgent species. You have 30 minutes to surrender or face extinction. There will be no negotiations, no mercy, no remembrance. Joran didn't blink. He picked up the transmitter. Send this back, he told the AI. Untranslated. He stared up at the blackness of that cruiser's belly, unshaken. Then he spoke. We're already dead. You just haven't figured it out yet. 30 minutes passed. No reply. Then came the rain of drop pods. Sovereign One's sky turned to fire as hundreds of Varn troop carriers screamed down through the atmosphere, burning holes into the surface. The ground trembled. Air burst. Entire sections of the upper plateau cracked as impact after impact cratered the soil. But they landed where Joran wanted them to. Every pod settled into the fields rigged with mines, pressure spikes, plasma barrels. They deployed in standard Varn formation, 10 by 10, marching toward the command post, oblivious to what lay beneath their feet. The first mine went off beneath a command captain's feet. The second ignited an entire battalion in liquid flame. Then the real fight began. Joran was already below, deep in the refinery tunnels, commanding from what they now called the furnace. A converted drill chamber turned war room, its walls lined with old coolant tanks and jury-rigged monitors. Dana's voice came over the comms. "Front lines holding. Drones engaging. One breached the wall, but Cole took it down." Then, "We've got heat spikes near Tunnel Gate C. They found an access hatch." Joran tapped into the cam feed. 3 Varn soldiers were cutting through a maintenance grate. They had plasma drills. Behind them, at least 30 more, packed tight, ready to swarm. He activated the vent overload. Steam hissed, metal groaned, then the entire shaft erupted. Screams followed. By hour 3, it was a bloodbath, but it was working. The Varn had never faced resistance like this from humans. Not soldiers, not trained militia, just survivors turned killers with a cause. They expected surrender. They got sabotage. One Varn squad tried flanking through the south ridge. They triggered a false wall and fell into a pit lined with sharpened mining blades. Another squad stormed the west wall, only to find Rad with a thermal welder who set the ground beneath them on fire by torching the coolant lines. But they kept coming. Even after 200 dead, they didn't stop. Because they still had one trick left, the blockade carrier began to descend. It wasn't just here for orbital support. It had a city-sized weapon, the Scorch Lance, capable of burning the entire command compound to glass in one beam. Joran saw it on the monitors, lowering, charging. If it fired, it was over. He made the call. "AI, deploy the Marauder. Now target the carrier's belly before the lance goes hot." Warning, Marauder is not at full shield integrity. "I don't care. Get my goddamn ship in the sky." The Marauder rose like a phoenix from its lunar cradle. Its hull still scarred, its systems patched, but its core burning. The AI moved it with precision, straight into the upper atmosphere, thrusters screaming, missile bays open. The Varn carrier didn't expect the ship to come to them. They hesitated, and that hesitation cost them everything. The Marauder fired 2 cruise rounds into the lance core, shattering it in mid-charge. The explosion lit the sky for miles. Chunks of Varn hull fell like meteors. Below, every human in Sovereign One looked up and knew one thing: they had survived. By nightfall, the Varn routed. Those who could still walk fled back to the pods. The rest burned. The remaining orbitals withdrew. No final message, no threat, just silence and fear. Joran walked the surface alone after the last drone was deactivated. Charred bodies, craters, smoke, but also walls still standing, flags still raised, and people still breathing. Later, in the furnace, the AI brought him another signal. "From Deepwell Station, encrypted relay, contents, battle footage, message from Station Council." He opened it. "To Maddox and Sovereign One. We saw what you did. The fire, the stand. We have ships, rusted but flyable. We have people, scared, but willing. We are coming." Humanity wasn't just watching anymore. It was moving, and the stars would never forget what happened on Sovereign One. The stars above Sovereign One had changed. Where once there was silence, now came signals. Dozens of them, one after another. From fringe worlds, mining colonies, derelict trade routes, even outlaw fleets. Some were encrypted, others crudely broadcast, most trembling with uncertainty. But they all said the same thing. "We saw you. We're ready. Tell us what to burn." It had been a week since the Varn fleet tried to take back Vesker 3. 7 ships lost, thousands dead. The scars of the battle still smoked from the outer wall, and the air reeked of scorched metal and alien flesh. But the people inside the walls were different. They stood straighter, looked each other in the eye, worked harder. They believed. And belief, real, raw belief, was more dangerous than any army. Joran Maddox stared at the incoming message feed, hands on either side of the console. Dozens of red tags blinked across the tactical map, each one a potential ally or enemy, or both. Dana entered the room quietly, carrying a data slate. "They're rallying, Joran," she said. "Deepwell Station confirmed they're launching 3 gunships. Old Earth tech, but functional. Something called the Nomad Fangs are offering 5,000 mercs. No allegiance, just want to kill Varn. And..." She flipped the slate. "There's something else." Joran turned. "They're calling us the Sovereign Line," she said, frowning. "A movement." He didn't answer. "You started this," she added, not unkindly. "No," he said. "The Varn started it. I just stopped kneeling." Cole barged in next, all bark and no patience. He looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days. "Something's wrong. We intercepted a relay from the Varn High Council. They've stopped issuing patrol commands in this sector." Dana raised an eyebrow. "They're retreating?" "No," Cole said, eyes hard. "They're stalling, waiting." "Waiting for what?" Joran stepped between them, voice cold. "Retaliation," he said. "Not fleets, not soldiers. Something worse." They were right. At 0300 hours, the AI triggered an emergency alert across the Marauder's deck. "Incoming warp signature detected. Single ship. No known registry. Not Varn, not Pact. Unknown tech. Caution advised." Joran reached the bridge in less than 2 minutes. The projection showed a tear in space, a shimmering crack, unfolding near the outer orbit. The ship that emerged wasn't like anything they'd seen before. Long, black, segmented like an insect. No external thrusters, no visible weapons, just a hull covered in shifting panels that seemed to flicker even in open space. A transmission followed, untranslated. No sound, just a rotating image, the Marauder, painted in red, surrounded by static. Then one word. "Anomaly." Dana stared at it. "What the hell is that?" The AI responded before Joran could. "Varn experimental class, co-developed with old Pact exiles, likely AI-governed, designed for surgical elimination of insurgent infrastructure." Cole spat. "An assassin ship." "Worse," Joran muttered. "A message clearer than death. They're saying we're not worth conquering anymore. We're something to be erased, scrubbed, forgotten." Dana looked pale. "What's its weapon?" The AI's silence lasted 3 full seconds. "Unknown, but analysis suggests a core-based fusion destabilizer, likely capable of reducing planetary surfaces to uninhabitable slag." Joran didn't flinch. "Can it take Sovereign One?" "Alone, no. But if it targets our core infrastructure and succeeds, it doesn't need backup." Cole paced like a caged animal. "Then we don't wait for it to strike." Joran turned to the console. "Target that ship, all forward batteries, no mercy." The Marauder burned through the upper atmosphere like a vengeful god. It was scarred, patched with stolen Varn plating, buzzing with human-engineered madness. But it moved with purpose. The assassin ship didn't retreat. It simply hovered, waiting. The first missile barrage was fired at extreme range. 4 rounds, 2 kinetic, 2 plasma. All 4 disappeared mid-flight. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Joran gritted his teeth. AI, explain. Target is emitting temporal distortion. Weapons are being caught in a microtime phase and displaced. Then we get close. Warning. Risk increases exponentially inside the field. I don't care. He stood. This is our home, our line. We end it now. They dove straight into hell. The Marauder flew into the distortion field at full throttle, its hull groaning under the stress. Lights flickered. Panels sparked. Inside the bridge, time itself rippled. Joran blinked. And for a second, he was standing over his brother's grave back on Mars. Blinked again, and he was watching the Marauder burn in the Varn ambush. A third blink. He was old, dying, forgotten. Focus, he roared. Dana screamed, gripping her console. It's not just tech, it's weaponized memory. The AI's voice fractured and returned. Mental distortions at 42%. Recommend anchor protocol. Execute grounding override. Do it. Grounding initiated. Neural dampeners online. The lights snapped back. Everyone gasped. Hearts racing. Sweat dripping. But they were still alive, and still inside the beast's jaws. The assassin ship opened. Panels along its belly peeled back like rotten petals, revealing a pulsing orb of white light. It wasn't just energy. It was erasure. The kind of power that didn't explode. It simply unmade. Cole didn't wait. He triggered the last remaining warhead they had in storage, an unstable nuclear slug designed to melt cities. Firing! He shouted. This time the weapon struck. It didn't destroy the ship, but it cracked the orb. Enough to make it pulse wildly, enough to break the phasing field. Now, Joran shouted. Full barrage. They let everything go. Missiles, beams, slugs, rail spikes. And this time, nothing disappeared. The assassin ship split apart. The shockwave knocked the Marauder sideways. Panels tore free. A fire burst from the starboard wing. But they stayed flying, and the sky was theirs. Back on the surface, the people of Sovereign One watched a new sunrise. Real light. No warships, no burning atmosphere. Just stars. And above them, circling slow, the Marauder like a god's blade. Later, Joran walked alone through the underground chapel. It wasn't religious, just quiet. A place for names. The wall was now etched with over 100. Those who died retaking the ship, holding the mine, resisting the Varn. He added one more. Unknown child, Tunnel C, shielded others with her body. He carved it himself. No title, no reward, just remembrance. Then, as he returned to the command deck, the AI spoke one last time. Long-range scan, humanity rallying, ships in motion 84, confirmed colonies rising 12, Maddox, they call you something now. He stopped walking. What? The last sovereign. He didn't speak for a while, just smiled, bitter and quiet. Then let's make sure I'm not the last for long.